The glossy startup world loves its hierarchies. Corner offices for the visionaries, glass-walled meeting rooms for the strategists, and tucked away in the back, hidden behind monitors and spreadsheets, people like me. At least that's what they thought. My name is Alex Chen, and for 2 years I've played the role of a mid-level data analyst at TechVision Dynamics, enduring the condescending smiles and dismissive glances of executives who never bothered to look deeper. What they didn't know was that their ambitious $100 million merger deal would soon land on my other desk, the one at Global Venture Partners, where I served as head of technical due diligence. The company holiday party was in full swing at the Grand Meridian Hotel when everything started to unravel. Christmas lights twinkled overhead as I nursed a club soda, watching our CEO, Richard Sterling, hold court near the bar. TechVision is about to change the game, he announced, gesturing with his martini. Our merger with Innovatex will create the biggest AI platform in the industry, just waiting on some final approvals from the investors. My direct manager, David Cooper, nodded eagerly. The team's been working overtime to prepare all the technical documentation. Well, most of the team. He glanced my way with a smirk. Some people prefer to stick to their simple spreadsheets. I took another sip of my club soda, thinking about the preliminary due diligence report sitting on my desk at GVP, the one highlighting serious flaws in TechVision's AI architecture, flaws that could sink the entire merger. Alex, David called out, waving me over. We were just discussing career ambition. Care to share your 5-year plan? Still happy with data entry. I walked over slowly, wearing the same neutral expression I perfected over 2 years of undercover work. As GVP's head of technical assessment, I was tasked with embedding myself in promising startups, evaluating their true technical capabilities from the inside. TechVision had seemed promising at first until I discovered the cracks in their foundation. I like my spreadsheets, I said mildly. They're illuminating. Richard laughed, that rich CEO laugh that suggested he'd never face real consequences. See, David? Some people just don't have that killer instinct. Not everyone's cut out for the big leagues. Speaking of big leagues, David said, straightening his designer tie, I heard Global Venture Partners is sending their top technical expert to review the merger next week. Richard, we should have Alex prepare some basic data visualizations. You know, something simple they can understand. If they had been paying attention, they might have noticed the slight curve of my lips. GVP's top technical expert was indeed coming. I just hadn't decided which designer suit I would wear to that meeting. Of course, I replied. I'll make sure everything is thoroughly documented. Don't stress too much, Richard said, patting my shoulder condescendingly. Just stick to what you know. Basic data entry. Leave the complex stuff to the real engineers. Later that evening, as the party wound down, I overheard Richard talking to our Chief Technology Officer, Marcus Wong. The merger's in the bag, Richard boasted. Innovatex is desperate to sell, and GVP's technical review is just a formality. By this time next week, we'll be running the biggest AI platform in the business. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. About the technical review, there are some aspects of our system that might need explanation. The neural network bottlenecks? I asked innocently, causing both men to turn. Marcus's eyes widened. How did you? Just something I noticed in the data, I said with a shrug. Probably nothing important. Richard waved his hand dismissively. Stick to your spreadsheets, Alex. Marcus has everything under control. I nodded and walked away, pulling out my phone to send a quick message to my real team at GVP. Schedule the technical review for Monday, 9 a.m. And make sure you record everything. The weekend passed slowly. I spent it reviewing TechVision's technical documentation one final time, comparing it with the actual system performance data I'd been quietly gathering for months. The discrepancies were stark. Promised AI capabilities that didn't exist, scalability claims that defied physics, and security protocols that would crumble under any serious load. Sunday night, my phone buzzed with a message from David. Need those visualizations for the GVP meeting by 8 a.m. Nothing complicated. Pie charts should be your speed. I smiled, sending back a simple will do. Then I opened my laptop and began preparing a very different kind of presentation, one that would expose every flaw, every exaggeration, and every technical debt that TechVision had tried to hide. Monday morning arrived crisp and clear. I got to the office early, wearing one of my basic analyst outfits, khakis and a plain blue shirt. David was already there, pacing the conference room. "Where are those visualizations?" he demanded. "GVP's technical expert will be here any minute." "Just finishing up," I replied, watching the elevator numbers climb. Richard burst in, adjusting his tie. "Everyone ready? This is just a formality, but let's look sharp. Alex, try not to speak unless spoken to. We don't want to confuse the investors with data entry talk." The elevator dinged. David straightened his jacket. Richard plastered on his CEO smile. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from my assistant at GVP. "The team's ready." "Give them hell, boss." I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of 2 years of undercover work, 2 years of collected evidence, 2 years of quiet observation coming to a head. Sometimes the best position isn't the most visible one. Sometimes real power lies in what others don't see coming. Richard's smile faltered as my GVP team stepped into the conference room, each carrying tablets loaded with my comprehensive technical assessment. In a few minutes, they would all learn what it really means to underestimate the quiet one in the room. The conference room fell silent as my GVP team filed in, each taking their positions with practiced precision. I remained standing by my basic analyst desk, watching Richard's confident smile begin to waver. "Welcome," he began, extending his hand to the group. "I'm Richard Sterling, CEO of TechVision. We're excited to demonstrate our technical capabilities and finalize this merger." David jumped in, ever the eager subordinate. "We've prepared some simple visualizations for you." He glanced my way. "Alex, why don't you pull up those pie charts?" "Actually," I said, straightening my posture and switching to my GVP voice, "I have a different presentation in mind." The change in my demeanor was subtle but immediate. Gone was the quiet analyst's slouch, replaced by the confident bearing of someone who controlled billion-dollar investment decisions. "I don't understand," Richard said, looking between me and my team. "Where's the technical expert from Global Venture Partners?" "You're looking at him." I pulled out my GVP credentials. "Alex Chen, Head of Technical Due Diligence at Global Venture Partners. For the past 2 years, I've been conducting a deep cover assessment of TechVision's technical capabilities." The color drained from David's face. Richard gripped the edge of the conference table. Marcus, our CTO, closed his eyes in resignation. He'd suspected something was off about my basic data analysis. "This is some kind of joke," David stammered. "You're a data entry clerk. You make spreadsheets." "Very detailed spreadsheets," I agreed, nodding to my team. They simultaneously opened their tablets, projecting multiple screens onto the conference room wall. Spreadsheets that document every exaggeration, every technical debt, and every false claim TechVision has made about its AI capabilities. Richard found his voice, anger replacing shock. "You can't do this. You signed NDAs." "With TechVision, yes. But my primary contract is with Global Venture Partners. Everything I've documented has been completely legal." I pulled up the first analysis screen. "Let's talk about your neural network architecture." For the next 2 hours, I methodically deconstructed every aspect of TechVision's technical facade. The promised AI capabilities that were actually hard-coded decision trees. The scalability claims that fell apart under basic stress testing. The security protocols that would crumble under any serious attack. "Our system works perfectly," Richard protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "Does it?" I pulled up a live dashboard. "Right now, your main processing cluster is running at 98% capacity, handling just your test data. The moment you try to merge with InnovatX's user base, the entire system will collapse." David, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "All those late nights you spent fixing spreadsheet formulas." "I was running penetration tests, performance assessments, and code reviews." I nodded. "Amazing what people will ignore when they think you're just doing basic data entry." Marcus leaned forward. "The bottleneck issues I could never track down were documented in my weekly reports that no one bothered to read carefully." I pulled up one such report. Page 47, paragraph 3. I literally wrote "critical system failure imminent under load 2 months ago." Richard slammed his hand on the table. "This is a hit job. You've been sabotaging us from the inside." "On the contrary," I said calmly, "I've been trying to help you succeed." Those simple spreadsheets included detailed recommendations for fixing these issues. You just never took the time to understand them. I paused, letting that sink in. Too busy mocking the data analyst, I suppose. The room fell silent as my team continued displaying screen after screen of damning evidence. Years of technical debt, hidden system failures, and architectural flaws, all meticulously documented by the basic analyst they'd underestimated. Finally, Richard asked the question I'd been waiting for. What happens now? I closed my laptop. Now you have two options. Option 1, we end this meeting and I submit my official recommendation against the merger. TechVision's technical insolvency becomes public record, your stock plummets, and InnovaX walks away. David's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. And option 2, you accept GVP's intervention package. We bring in our technical team, openly this time, and spend the next 6 months fixing your architecture from the ground up. You delay the merger announcement, focus on building something real instead of something that just looks good in pitch meetings. 6 months? Richard exclaimed. The board will never. The board will do exactly what Global Venture Partners recommends. I cut in, unless they prefer to lose their primary investor. Your choice. Marcus, ever the pragmatist, spoke up. We should take the intervention package. We need the help, Richard. We always have. Richard slumped in his chair, the weight of reality finally hitting him. All this time, you were evaluating us? Every meeting where you ignored my input, every time you dismissed my concerns as basic analyst confusion, every condescending remark about data entry, I allowed myself a small smile. I was building a case that would either save your company or expose its failures. You decided which it would be through your own actions. Over the next hour, we laid out the terms of the intervention. My team would embed within TechVision, this time openly, to rebuild their systems properly. The merger would be delayed but not canceled, contingent on meeting specific technical benchmarks. As the meeting wound down, David approached me awkwardly. About all those times I mean the way I treated you. Save it, I said, gathering my things. Just read the damn spreadsheets next time. In the following months, TechVision underwent a transformation. Richard was replaced by the board, with Marcus stepping up as interim CEO. David found himself reporting to one of my team members, learning what real data analysis looks like. The company's culture shifted from flashy promises to solid engineering. 6 months later, when the merger finally went through, it was based on real technology and genuine innovation. TechVision's stock didn't just survive. It thrived because this time the company had substance behind its style. I moved on to my next assignment, but I left something behind on my old analyst desk. A simple spreadsheet with one cell highlighted. It contained all the evidence I'd gathered, every flaw I'd documented, every recommendation I'd made that had been ignored. At the bottom was a single note. The quiet ones are watching, the quiet ones are learning, and sometimes the quiet ones are running the whole game. Richard occasionally reaches out, asking for consulting work or investment introductions. I respond with the same message each time. Sorry, I'm busy with my spreadsheets. The tech world quickly forgot about TechVision's delayed merger, chalking it up to typical startup growing pains. But in certain boardrooms, when executives start dismissing the quiet ones in the back of the room, someone inevitably asks, "Remember that analyst at TechVision?" As for me, I moved on to my next assignment, embedding as a junior QA tester at another promising startup. My desk is in the back corner, behind a wall of monitors. The CEO here also has a corner office and a dismissive attitude toward technical staff. I smile and nod during meetings, taking detailed notes, building another meticulous case. After all, sometimes the best way to evaluate a company's character is to watch how they treat the people they think don't matter. And in my experience, the ones who dismiss the quiet observers are usually the ones with the most to hide and the most to lose when the truth finally comes out.